Hello, everybody. This is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today, we're going to talk about the MGTOW movement and how this affects Catholic dating. Now, before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. All right. Many of you women and some of you men might not be familiar with MGTOW. I'm really familiar with it in ways that I cannot explain here, but MGTOW is an acronym for Men Going Their Own Way. And I would describe it as a response by certain red pill men, normally high SMV or high sexual marketplace value men. It's a response to what radical feminism has done to marriage. And so in short, how would I describe MGTOW and Men Going Their Own Way? It's a pro-man movement that encourages men to optimize all aspects of their life. So their finances, get their financial health, their physical health, psychological health, let's say childhood trauma, or you have addictions, porn addictions, alcoholism, whatever. And also it encourages men not to marry. Now, a lot of you women are gonna be, whoa. Well, I mean, let's look at it this way. A lot of people don't know, and I've mentioned this in the other Catholic dating videos, a stat. 70% of marriages are initiated, I should say 70% of divorces are initiated by women. And it's 90% if the woman's been college educated. So in other words, if there's a divorce and the woman has been college educated, 90% chance that she initiated it. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people still have like the 1950s Mad Men, Don Draper rubric, where the man initiates divorce because he wants to be with a much younger wife. Does that still happen? Sure. But the preponderance of divorces is initiated by women. We also live in the milieu of no-fault divorce, which started around 1970. So before 1970, you had to have a reason, an excuse in the eyes of the court to initiate a divorce and to be granted a divorce. Now, with no-fault divorce, this is a hyperbole, but I could sneeze the wrong way and my wife would divorce me. So understand, when men know that statistic, it's akin to giving your wife or your bride on the wedding night a loaded gun. She might not use it the first year, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, but we know familiarity breeds contempt. We know that excessive expectations are the biggest destroyer of marriage. And she could use that gun on you at any time. And I'm meaning metaphorically, of course. I'm not saying she's going to kill you. But what do I mean by the gun? Half the assets are taken. So in most states, they just cut the assets in half. So in most cases, because most women are wired to like traditional gender norms, they're going to be more attracted to men who make more money than them. So let's say a man makes $250,000 a year, the woman's a teacher. Let's just, again, arbitrary occupations. So it's $300,000 a year that they make. And let's say they've accumulated assets, but most of them are his because let's say he started a business or whatever. They just cut the assets in half, give half to her, even though she didn't necessarily deserve it. He gets half of that. Then you lose the kids. Men only get custody of the kids 15% of the time. The rest of the time they get some crappy custody arrangement where they get them like alternating weekends, which it amounts to 4 to 5 nights a month and a little more time in the summer. So the man loses his assets and he loses his kids. And then for a decision that he chose not to do. He didn't make this decision most of the time. The woman initiates the divorce, and he could have told her, please, let's not break up the family, da-da-da. Now he's going to have to pay child support and alimony. In certain states, you have to pay alimony until she remarries or a certain amount of years. So he's got to pay 20, 25% of his earnings for the next X amount of years for a decision that he didn't make and a decision he didn't consent to. Now, a lot of women who hear that, oh, Gregory, but men are abusive and they're beating and women need a way out. Look, of course, are there relationships where the man is abusive? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the church has always said, go to the episodes we did on Christian remarriage. You don't have to stay with that person. You can live in separate places. You can even get a civil divorce if you want, but you can't remarry. But the fact that there are cases where men beat their wives or are controlling or psychologically abusive doesn't take away from the fact that no-fault divorce has ruined marriage. And we have that episode, how romanticism ruined marriage as well. So understand, men who've been divorced, or it's a guy who's never been married, young guy, but he saw his dad or his uncle go through the court system and lose pretty much everything and have an alienated relationship with his kids or whatever it is. They see this, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to marry. So this is unfortunate for women because good, virtuous Catholic women, like the trad cats, they are really collateral damage when it comes to the MGTOW movement because MGTOW men, either it's after their first divorce, They just don't trust women in general. They don't trust the court system. They don't want to sign the Faustian pact that is the marriage contract, as we call it, because again, it's too much risk. The woman doesn't really have a lot of risk when she marries. Now, a woman it's just by reflex going to say, well, he might beat me. Yeah, okay, but if he beats you, you call the cops, they'll arrest him, he's thrown in jail, and then you can divorce him and take his assets. But marriage today is extremely perilous for men, especially rich men. Extremely perilous. And so the MGTOW movement is all about male empowerment. Now, this is perceived in the woke cancel culture world we have today as hate speech. And in fact, the Southern Poverty Law Center describes the manosphere, any branch of the manosphere, which also includes men's rights activists and pickup artists and all these things, as hate speech. Because anything that's perceived to be pro-man somehow is perceived to be anti-woman, and it's not. It's just men realizing, yeah, marriage is rough right now. I don't know if I want to sign the pact. And look, and also the sex positive movement and the sex revolution has made it so easy now for men to get sex without having to marry. Whereas back in the day, women were all virgins, and aside from going to the whorehouse, if you wanted to get sex, you had to get married. Now women are giving it away first, second, third date. Again, not the trad cats necessarily, but men are like, okay, well, if I can, and again, this is not a Catholic thing, because of course I'm not endorsing fornication. I have an episode here on 4 scriptural examples where fornication is wrong. But if you look at the typical American secular man, he's like, okay, so if I'm aware that the legal system is stacked up against me if I marry, and then you compound that by the fact that women are putting out so easily now, why am I going to marry? I'm getting, why buy the cow, you get the milk for free? So I can get all the trappings of marriage, which for most men is just sex and companionship and intimacy, without any of the risk. So that's why you see the rise in what? Concubinage. You see the rise of cohabitation. Because a lot of men are like, I'm out. Now, some of the women there are like, I'm out too. They don't want to get married. But most of the time, women want to get married. Women are the gatekeepers for sex, but men are the gatekeepers for the relationship. So you see the situation where divorce rates are actually dropping, but because cohabitation rates are rising and marriage rates are dropping. So women, my thought to you is understand, if you encounter a divorced man who's lost a lot, and you kind of hear what I'm saying echoed in his voice, be sympathetic, because he's lost a lot and you can't relate. And understand, I feel bad for you good trad cath women, because a lot of you women are going to be collateral damage. Because a lot of men, good quality, high sexual market value men are going to be like, no, I'm not going to get married, I'm out. Why am I going to marry? I can stay single, do what I want, when I want, where I want, invest my money how I want. No one can spend my money, hemorrhage my money. And yet, when I want to get laid, I can still get laid. Now, this is a very moral cesspool, hedonistic mindset that I don't embrace, but understand this is where most men are coming from. And so if you meet a man who's like that, you're really going to have to overcome his trust issues and show that you're not different. One of the things that you can do is sign a prenup. Because if the man is ambivalent, if you sign a prenup, maybe he's more likely to marry you. But if you don't sign a prenup, he's probably not going to marry you. It's just too much risk for a lot of these guys. So in closing, MGTOW, if you get mad at MGTOW or mad at MGTOW men, understand it's a response to what the cultural Marxists have done to marriage, what radical feminism has done to marriage. Radical feminism has vitiated or polluted women's thinking. It's made them into solipsists and narcissists and hedonists. And so as soon as they're unhappy in a marriage, they want out. And then it's worsened by them watching television, Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, like in Bravo, and all these shows that glorify divorce. And they never think, for men who initiate divorce too, they never think about how this is going to affect the kids. I've talked about in previous dating episodes and the marriage episodes. Kids who are not raised by their biological father, so they're living with their mom and a cavalcade of boyfriends or even a stepfather, have up to a 40 times more likely chance to be physically and sexually abused, 15 times more likely chance to die from an unattended accident like a drowning, pool drowning, and 50 times more likely to be murdered. In addition to what we know about the stats about dropping out of school, incarceration, early promiscuity, and all these things. So my advice to you guys is, we've all been infected on one level by the glamour of evil and by the cultural Marxist Gramscian message that is pushed to us every day, the postmodernist thinking, the hedonist thinking. And so just women who want to marry, understand you've been infected. Even if you're a trad cath, you've been infected. You don't even know you've been infected. And a lot of the men have been infected in their own way. They've been effeminized. It's another cultural Marxist ploy. They've been effeminized too, and they don't pass the shit rock test, as I like to say, and they're not maintaining frame and being masculine. So just marriage in general is very dire, and you're having women that unfortunately have been promiscuous in their 20s and 30s, and for every partner a woman has, it increases their chances of infidelity and divorce and having depression and severe mental health problems. And this is something the sex positive people don't want you to know. The Sex and the City television show, they don't want you to know. Women suffer psychologically when they have a lot of sexual partners. So you see these women who fall for the Sex and the City kind of rubric in their 20s and 30s, then they finally get married and they have all this baggage that's going to sabotage the marriage. Then you have men on the other side who've been effeminized for so many years, don't know how to maintain frame, and they're going to sabotage the marriage. And then you have what? A couple kids, divorce, a fractured marriage. And we know society's falling apart because society is made up of family. So when the family's broken, which is what the Marxists want, then society is broken. And then those kids grow up children of divorce, and then they too are broken. They have attachment issues and pair bonding problems, and then rinse, lather, repeat. Either way, I know this episode's gone long, so I just want to give you a little primer on men going their own way and how it might affect you, especially for you guys who live in the West and in America. The MGTOW maybe isn't as strong in Latin America and Africa, but just so you know about it. Guys, post in the comments. Let me know. You men, do you embrace men going their own way? Are you red pill, black pill, blue pill? Where would you put yourself on the spectrum? Women, let me know if you've encountered these men. Please hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Share with like-minded people. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.